So recently Zatora was helping Fluttershy gather some moss from a local swamp when she lost her balance and fell into the swamp and accidentally came into contact with some dangerous flowers that gave her a serious illness known as swamp fever, a disease for which there is no known cure, where the victims turn into trees. Determined to heal Zatora after feeling guilty for causing this to happen to her, Fluttershy committed herself to helping cure Zatora at any cost, and immediately went over to Twilight's to have her friend who knows all about magic and books and things help her research a possible magical cure. Took her all day, but Fluttershy was able to find out that the pony who knew the cure for swamp fever was none other than the mystical mage Meadowbrook. Following what was in the book, Fluttershy discovered an old tree in some swampland that used to belong to Mage Meadowbrook, went in and started doing some further research. She discovered that the cure was in honey from some bees, and went to get the honey, but the bees were too aggressive and Fluttershy was too sick to fend them off. She eventually fell out of the tree and passed out. Waking up 3 days later with plenty of rest, Fluttershy's sleep-deprived mind was finally rested enough and clear enough to think straight, and she figured out a way to get the honey from the bees and help them be less aggressive towards her. Putting on a mask, she tricked the bees into thinking she was one of them and was able to get the honey without any problem. And then she cured Zatora just in time. This was an interesting episode. What we got from this was a little bit of world building and some information about a very fascinating disease, one that can be thought about more later, but I want to get into some of the other details. First, a second Zatora episode right after a previous Zatora episode, after a long period of no Zatora episodes. And like I said, maybe the writers are getting tired of trying to figure out how to make everything Zatora says rhyme. As this episode, she was in it less frequently and eventually stopped rhyming. Zatora is a difficult character to work for, but at least they were able to heal her and keep her on the show. They didn't write her off altogether. That would be extraordinarily depressing if she turned into a tree at the end of the episode. The other thing we got from this episode is that Mage Meadowbrook has been revealed. We know what Mage Meadowbrook looks like, an earth pony who lives in a swamp. Previously, Twilight Sparkle had talked about Mage Meadowbrook in Season 5 when the ponies were captured by Starlight Glimmer and their cutie marks were removed. Twilight said that Mage Meadowbrook was an Eastern unicorn. Maybe this is the writers messing up and retconning their own work because they didn't remember something that was in one of the strips, or maybe this could be contributed to Twilight with her cutie mark removed, not able to remember information correctly, but it seems more like Mistmane was the Eastern unicorn with the amazing magic and the special items, and Mage Meadowbrook was an earth pony who did healing with potions, very much in the same spirit as Zatora did, even right down to living in a tree full of all sorts of fancy masks and so forth. Interesting to draw parallels between today's legend and Zatora's personality. Just like previously we had legends that were similar to Rainbow Dash, Rarity, and Applejack, and a legend that was similar to Daring Do. With all of these legendary characters popping up this season, I wouldn't be surprised if future episodes had more legendary characters. Think of any pony that we've seen in Legends And perhaps we will see these ponies again, going back to stories like The Headless Horse, Snowfall Frost, or maybe possibly even Star Swirl the Bearded. Yeah, we've got quite a lot of pony history that's been dropped, either in the form of a legend or a ghost story, or in the form of some other history or whatever. And it seems like we're really doing pony history and legends this series. So I wonder if possibly we might be getting some Star Swirl the Bearded in a coming up episode. That would seem to be the logical and hopeful, hypeful conclusion to this theme of ponies from history and legends being featured in episodes. And if that happens, I wonder if they'll get a major celebrity voice actor, or if they'll just keep the voice actor on staff. With all the hype built around Star Swirl the Bearded, I really want the voice to sound nice and epic. If it doesn't sound like it would be appropriate for that character, I'd be somewhat disappointed, I suppose. The other thought that I had from this episode is if there's a disease that could turn ponies into trees, that'd be an interesting way to write off certain characters. Maybe this could have been the ultimate fate of Applejack's parents. Perhaps they were turned into trees. I wonder what the community's reaction would be to the series either saying Applejack's parents are definitely dead, or Applejack's parents have been put into some kind of magical situation that they can possibly be revived from and they can come back to the series. Anyhow, in the little time I have to record, that's about all I have to say for this one. Thank you for watching, and good night. And let's hope that this Ponies of Legend thing actually does lead someplace, because it feels like they're really building up to something interesting. We've had a lot of foreshadowing this season, like Ponies of Legend and the CMC starting a Cutie Mart camp. So let's see if some of this pays off.